Ms. Barb Zaborowski, and I'm here interviewing Howard T. Sherman about his service in the 25th Field Hospital. Mr. Sherman, were you drafted or did you enlist in the service?
I was drafted.
And where were you living at the time that you were drafted?
In Johnstown.
Since you were drafted, I guess you didn't have any choice over what branch of service you chose.
No, I didn't. I had no choice.
Well, how did you end? What happened to you when you were in the Army? How did you finally end up in the unit that you were assigned to?
Well, we were shipped out from New Cumberland to Camp Markley, Texas, and that ended up in a medical training division there. And most of that was simply basic training. Marching and taking hikes and bivouacs and so forth. That lasted for a period of 6 weeks. And then after that, then I was shipped out of Camp Barkley to Camp Breckenridge, Kentucky, and assigned to a field hospital group.
Did you receive any special training to be in a field hospital? What did you do as part of your training?
Oh, yes, we were, there was a big base hospital right at Breckenridge, Kentucky. And we were involved with special training, right in hospital training. And I was trained as a medical technician. We had a lot of classes, the same as what nurses would have in training and so forth.
Where did you go after Camp Breckenridge?
From Camp Breckenridge, we shipped out to Los Angeles and then boarded the troop ship General George Washington. And ended up in, after a 43-day trip stop in Tasmania in Australia, and then from there to Bombay, India. From Bombay, India, we ended up at maybe 50 or 60 miles inland at a place called Deer Lally, where we staged for 2 weeks, taking some additional training. And then afterwards we went across country. It took us about 3 days by rail, by river. Ended up in the Assam province of India in a town called Lido. And we were in Lido until January of 1944. And when we went forward up into the battle area where the Chinese troops were assigned to start pushing the Japs who had invaded India out of Burma, we set up our field hospital right in a town called Chimbalang, and we were there for about 6 weeks. And as the battle progressed forward, we would move our hospital forward with each individual situation where it occurred. Eventually, the Merle's Marauders came in, which was a task force formed special, and the Chinese were sort of lackadaisical in the way that they pushed the troops out, and there was a difference between General Stilwell and Chiang Kai-shek as to what was going on over there. And Chiang Kai-shek, he didn't like his troops getting involved too much. He wanted the American forces to get in there, and so that's what happened. They got a hold of General Merle, and he formed this Marauder group. And they were the ones that really won the war in Burma, was the Merle's Marauders. They took a terrible beating over there. We had a lot of their casualties at the 2 different occasions at a place called Wamo, where there was a big battle. Afterwards, they came and rested at our hospital. And then after they took the strip at Michino, we were set up right close to the strip to take care of everything. They then had a rest leave, and then shortly after a while, some of them were returned back to the States, and a new force was what they called the Mars Task Force, ended up taking pushing the Jamestown bomb, or it was last year, I mean, and that's where the whole thing ended, and that everything was secure there, and then I guess in August when the Germans capitulated, well, things started to turn around pretty good for everybody.
So your field hospital then was pretty close to front lines the whole time.
Yeah, we moved right along with them. Yeah. In fact, I can show you a picture here. I got off of the internet here, which is a picture of our group out in a portable surgical unit.
Okay.
And we also worked along with this is a picture of the Burma surgeons, General Gordon or Dr. Gordon Seagrave. We worked a lot with his outfit too.
Now, tell me what it was like when you would have troops that would come in. I mean, did you get any notice that either there had been some fighting in the area and that you would be receiving troops, or?
Well, you normally had that, yeah, but there was a coach there that they would bring them in on litters, and sometimes they'd send a jeep up and load them on the litters on the jeep and bring them back to the field hospital, or a portable surgical hospital that we'd have set up nearby, and then we would take care of them as good as we can, and then try to hit them to the airstrip, and necessarily fly them out to a general hospital. The 20th General Hospital was located in one of the rear echelons there, and it was a pretty big setup. It was I had visited there at one time while I was there, taking some patients back by ambulance, and they did a real good job too.
Did you ever run into occasions where you didn't have supplies, or you didn't have enough to really help the troops, or, I mean, what was the mortality rate like for these battles when you would get troops in?
Well, we didn't see too much of a problem with the medical supplies there. We were pretty well set up on that part of it, although our needs weren't as great as what you would need back, I think, in the general hospital. But we had 4 or 5 surgeons with us, and they were really good. We had a good technical group, and although when we arrived over there, we took 18 nurses up into the first area we had. But about 2 weeks after we things started going, they sent all the nurses back to the general hospital because they didn't want them in the area. It was too dangerous. But supplies, I think they came through pretty good, although I do remember sitting out there with some of these surgical places that you didn't have autoclaves or anything like to boil rinse, but we would put fires up and take the ammunition buckets and boil instruments, fill that bucket or those ammunition buckets with water and boil the instruments to sterilize them.
How about dealing with the tragedies that happen in field hospitals? I mean, how did you deal with maybe getting to know soldiers who then later succumbed to their injuries? And I mean, how do you deal with seeing that life and death every day?
At first it's hard, but then as you get more involved, you know that you needed a treatment, and it sort of subsides after a period of time. You see so much of it, and then it sort of dissipates. You know, it's hard to say it that way, but you get so involved in working with the injured and everything like that that you have to move on.
Did you get to know any of the soldiers that came in?
Not too many of them, no. No, you get them moving and move them right out as soon as you can.
How about the other soldiers in your unit? I mean, how did you guys work as a unit?
Well, I think we worked real good. We had a real good group.
Did you have anybody you were particularly close to?
Oh yeah, I had quite a few buddies there that was close to one from Wisconsin, and one from, well, a couple from Lancaster County and that, and a couple from Maine, and they were scattered all over, but it was a good, friendly outfit. We got along real good.
So tell me what it was like the day you found out the war had ended.
Well,
How did you get the news?
Well, we got the news by radio, you know, and we had radios, and I can still remember it because being in a medical group like that, you always had some alcohol supplies around, and, I don't know, but the colonel of the outfit opened up the pure alcohol that we had, and they had some anise or something there that they diluted with, and they gave everybody a canteen full of that. So we had quite a celebration. It was a great day.
Now, knowing how battles are, that there are lulls and you know, there's heavy times and there's slow times. During the times when the field hospital was, you know, wasn't under siege by, you know, incoming wounded, what did you guys do to entertain yourselves out there?
Well, first of all, we had duties to perform. I know a lot of times I was assigned to work at the dispensary, and we'd have sick calls for all the troops that were in the area, things like that. That kept us pretty busy. It'd be an all-day affair. But when you had spare time, we played cards, and when near the time that the war was coming close to an end, we'd play volleyball. We'd set a net up in the area we were in, play volleyball, and we had basketball hoops set up. We'd play a little basketball, things like that, entertain us.
Now, did you ever get R&R? Did you ever get a chance to get away from the Union?
Yes, I did. I had the chance to go to Calcutta on a 10-day leave. We flew down on an old C-46. Was loaded with the bucket seats on the side. They had brought some meat up into the area to feed the boys, and we cleaned that plane up and then flew down to Calcutta for a rest leave, and we had a good time down there.
Can you tell me anything about what you did?
Oh yeah, I know we went to the USO down there one day and got some golf clubs and went out to play golf. Went to the racetrack to see the races. Enjoyed the sightseeing around Calcutta. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Got to some nice restaurants and had some good food.
So tell me a little bit about when you got back to the States, you know, after the war had been over. How long after they declared the war over did you actually get to return?
Let's see, the war was August 15th, was it?
Mm-hmm.
D-Day, or?
August 14th.
August 14th. Shortly after, they started making plans to move the troops back to an area that where they could assemble, and we had some things to clean up yet. I had to. Some of the engineers were staying behind, so I was assigned. Our troops all moved out of Lashio and started back to Karachi, and I was put on detached service for a while with one doctor to take care of the dispensary thing for the troops for coming in around sick call, things like that. That lasted for about 3 weeks, and then we loaded up the trucks that we had left there, and we headed back towards Lido in the Assam province, and spent a day or two there, and then moved on out. It was by train and river and everything again, and went over to Karachi, where we stayed for about 2 weeks and boarded ship to come home.
Where did you land in the U.S.? Back in San Francisco?
Oh no, to come back to New York. So I was around the world there. Going over. We come back through the Gulf of Aden, the Suez Canal, out through the Mediterranean Sea, and around to Gibraltar, and run into a big storm, and, and back into New York.
Wow. Yeah. So you were a pretty young guy when all this was going on.
Oh, yeah.
What about your family? I mean, how did you keep in touch with your family back home during this time?
We had good mail, yeah. we were married just before I left to go overseas, and we corresponded regularly and so forth.
So once you got back in New York, how long did it take you to get back to Johnstown? Was there any kind of a...
Well, we went to Fort Dix for a couple of days, and then they sent us to the camp in Harrisburg, Indian Town Gap, and we were there for about 3 or 4 days and then discharged.
So now that you're back and the war's over, what did you do now that, how did you pick up your life again after that?
Well, I guess as soon as I got back home, we had a little vacation period before I had to come back to work. Her and I took a trip to New York City and saw the sights in New York City, which we'd never seen before. And then I come back home, and I went back to work for Buffum Steel.
Just like that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, how has that war experience and being over there and seeing what you saw, how do you think that's changed your life in any way?
Oh, I don't know if that's... You fit back into the home life real easy. You sustain all the memories of the people that you were with through those years. But I think I adapted well to going back to work, and we went housekeeping and started raising our family.
Do you keep in touch with any of the guys from your unit?
Oh, I kept in touch quite a few years with some of them, but they're all gone now. They passed away, so I have no contact. I'd be remiss if I didn't explain one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. When the Merrill's Marauders were resting with us at the first plot, my commanding officer called me in and introduced me to a Catholic chaplain by the name of Father Glavin. He was a chaplain for the Merrill's Marauders, and he wanted to have Mass said there, and of course he asked me if I would help serve the Mass and set the place up for the altar. And he would come in every once in a while, and he would say Mass for us. Well, then they left our area to go to the Battle of Michinoff, and before he left, he introduced me to another chaplain to come in to take care of the area. And this was Chaplain Capon, and he came out of Pilsen, Kansas. And so I worked with him through from that particular time until we were discharged from the area and went sent back to the States. But Father Capon came out of Pilsen, Kansas, and entered the Army and was assigned over there. And he was such a good priest. And we hooked up with some missionaries. It was on Good Friday, I guess, that Father Glavin got involved in it, and they found these missionaries over there hiding out from the Japs. This was in Lashio. And so they got them all together and brought them over to our hospital, and they had Mass there for them out there. And then after he had to leave, they brought in Father Capon, and he organized a lot more things. They built a school for the kids in the church. Troops did this, donated money to keep them going. And then every time that Chaplain Capon came into the area, he would let all the missionaries know, and they would come over to our hospital and attend Mass, and really they would bring these natives over in their beautiful colored cerise. And on Easter Sunday morning, he had a Mass there one time, and it was just so beautiful. One of the nuns had a little hand pipe organ or something that played all the songs and sang. It was really beautiful. But the thing about Father Capon and I, we'd travel around to the different missionaries, and I had such a great time with him and everything. He treated us right. But what happened later on was after the war was over, why he was discharged and went back to Pilsen, Kansas, to his home parish. And he got assigned to where he was a prisoner all these years. He wasn't happy with that part, but he wanted to get to another parish. And I guess it didn't work out right, so he asked his bishop if he could go back into service, which permission was granted. And before he went, though, he was sent to Catholic University in D.C. And I was in contact with him from time to time while he was there, and he had planned on coming to visit me. But it never materialized because the opening to go back into the chaplain's corps came through. And so he was sent out from there to Japan. The last I heard from him was a Christmas card I got from him in Japan, and he was then assigned to the Korean War. And there's quite a story on him about the Korean War. I'm going to give you a copy of it here. This one here is about this Father Glavin, who was with the Merle's Marauders. And this is the story on Father Capon. I want to get something to show you too. I stayed in contact with the missionaries over there for a long time. This is what was sent to me. These are little wooden statues of Kachins that the sister sent to me. I've had them all these years. I got these around 1945.
Those are great.
But anyway, the story on Capon, as he went and served the troops in Korea and everything, and was captured by the North Koreans. And the story goes on to tell how well he took care of the people. He was a prisoner of war, and all the things that he did to sustain the life of the prisoners over there, even to the point of going down and stealing food to feed the guys that were really in bad shape in the prison camp. And later on, why he died in the prison camp. And I guess he was buried over there with in one of those mass graves that the Korean Jews at that time. But my experience with him was so great, and he was such a good man.
Wow, that's quite a story.
Yeah.
So you really impacted the lives of those
I did.
the people near you while you were stationed there.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Wow, that's great.
I have a lot of good memories of him. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. There's the. This is a picture of him there.
Let's see if we can get a shot of that. Let's get a shot of that. Okay, there's a picture of him.
And that's a picture of the missionary priest with me.
Okay.
And this is a book that was written on Chaplain Capon. And then there was another one written by him by a lawyer out of New York somewhere called Chaplain in Combat Boots. It's a whole story on Chaplain Capon.
And you just happened to be with him because he just happened to come in with a unit that was
Yeah.
near your
Yeah.
field hospital.
Yeah. Yeah, here's some pictures of the nuns.
This is a picture of the nuns.
Yeah, missionary nuns. They're from Milan, Italy. And there's some of them they have burned. That's how we would bring them from their convent over to our mess hall to attend Mass. That was a convent that troops built for him. I don't know, it saved all these letters I had from all these missionaries through the years.
That's incredible.
It's here. This is a copy of the Christmas card that I got from Father Capon. This is a copy of the last letter. The letter that he wrote to me from Catholic University.
Wow. So this would have been right before he went back over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah.
He was certainly dedicated to his service, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He sure was. The picture of us working.
Who took these pictures?
Just the friends of ours over there, that's all. With my little Chico.
Oh, you had a pet?
Yeah.
Was he a camp mascot or was he yours
He
personally?
was mine, little monkey.
Tell her about your monkey.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about your monkey.
He hung himself.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, we had our beer ration one night and we would feed him little beer top caps of beer, you know. And the bamboo around that held the tents up, he would sit up on top of that. So I would tie it to him so he wouldn't get away. And here the rope was too short to come out in the morning after him nibbling on that beer come out in the morning. He was gone. Hung himself.
Aww.
Another picture working there. He was one of our nurses when we first.
Well, these were one of the nurses that they sent back then
Yeah.
to the main hospital.
Yeah.
Well, these are great.
Did you see?
Yes, we got pictures of all those.
Good.
So is there anything else you'd like to tell me? Any other neat stories or anything unique that happened to you?
Oh, that's just about it now, I think.
That's great. Well, I thank you for your time and I thank you for serving, and I'll make sure you get a copy of this.
Okay, I do the 25th Field Hospital. Our hospital setups and everything over there.
And who did you get this from?
This was a magazine that was in a doctor's office where she worked. I got that right after I come out of service. That's how old that is.